Good morning, beloveds. Foster has got a little bit of the zoomies, but he's trying to stay close. So he's been jumping across my lap. The weather's being weird. It's like you can see that it's definitely storming this way and the blue sky's that way. And it's like the Mother Nature is drawing a blanket across the sky. So it's like you look out my back windows and it's dark. You look out my front windows and it's sunny. So I don't know. And I don't know. I was having a little bit of connection issue like I had yesterday morning. And so this morning I had time. So I rebooted my phone. It seems to be back. So we'll find out. All right. So it is April 18th. Our title is Oneness. And our author is Vida Stone. And this was published in Daily Studies in Divine Science in 2010. And as I said, this is divine science. So it looks like we are getting exposed to a whole lot of divine science readers, which I'm very excited about because, like I said, Ernest Holmes was ordained in divine science before he started religious science. So it's really cool to hear some of the women who influenced him. All right. So again, the title is Oneness. And we actually have a quote. There is one body and one spirit, one Lord, one faith, one God, and one Spirit of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. And that is Ephesians 4:4-6. We could not have a more definite statement of oneness of all life than of these words of Paul. The lines are like a hymn or poem with their reiteration of one, and all. As we let these words sink into our consciousness, we become more deeply aware of the feeling of this oneness of all life. Gradually, our daily living comes more and more into alignment with the truth of oneness. What are some of the keynotes of a way of life based upon acceptance of this truth? First, we delight in it. Expressing universal love towards all people. In every experience of life, in every decision we face, we choose the way of love. We desire the highest good for all concerned. We do not judge others, but wait for a time to reveal that which is righteous and true. To judge righteous judgment is to judge on the basis of spiritual understanding rather than prejudice or limited views. We do not criticize or condemn, even in thought, but seek only to let God's love live in and through us. We walk humbly in thee, O God, and reverence the Christ self in our fellow people. All right. It's a little awkwardly printed on the page, so I struggled just a bit with the way it reads. It's a great big book. I mean, it is a great big book. So, but I mean, the whole point of divine science and unity and new thought, religious science, is this idea of oneness. I was talking to a coworker yesterday, and that was one of the things that I pointed out. It's like when you look at the Hindu religion, like there are so many different gods. But the Hindus themselves will tell you there's only one God. The problem is that we are so limited in our ability to grasp the concept of the infinite that what the Hindus decided to do is like, okay, you know what? I can't grasp the concept of Brahma, which is the one. But what I need this little aspect of. So I'm just going to give that aspect of Brahma a name and deal with that. And so that's how the Hindus got around the oneness thing. They recognized that grasping that overarching infinite, we just can't do it. We can't do it. At least not while we are bound in the material form. And so that was their way around it. And I was reading in a book, they were talking about one of the ways that and I was just like, okay, this is an idea of how you look at oneness, is like you look at oneness like a lake or the ocean. It's like all of these different religions, we come to the water, we drink, and we call it different things. Because everybody has a different word for water, but it's still water. And then you want to look at religions like rivers. They're paths to the ocean. They're paths to the water. And so, which then always brings me back to the mountain quote, which is the only person, there's many paths to the top of the mountain as there are people. The only person who is wrong is the person running around the bottom of the mountain telling everybody that their path is wrong. It's like, if your goal is love and light, your path is good. If your goal is love and light. And so she has some very definite ideas in here. And she says them gently. I appreciate that, because sometimes some of these writers, these hardball metaphysic writers, Emma being one of them, they kind of, when I read Emma, I feel like she's grasped me by my the lapels of my coat and is holding me, or she's got her finger in my chest and she's like, "This is the way," kind of like the Mandalorian. This is the way. She's a little gentler. Vida is a little gentler. As we let these words sink into our consciousness to become more deeply aware of the feeling of this oneness, gradually our living becomes more and more in alignment with the truth of oneness. Okay. What are some of the keynotes of this way of life based on acceptance? First, we delight in it. The beauty of its unity, the variety and the variety and the unity is that the beauty in the variety. If everybody was all the same, life would be boring. Life would be really boring. So we delight in the variety. We delight in the variety of the oneness. And we express universal love towards all people. And every decision we face, we choose the way of love. What is the most loving, kind, compassionate thing that I can do in this situation? Because we recognize that what we do, there's the quote from Jesus: "What you've done to the least of me, you've done to me. What you've done to the least of you, you've done to me." So it's like, okay, if we're all one, any harm that I do to you, I do to myself. And that should rock us back on our heels and think about. So we choose the way of love. And love isn't a doormat. Love has strong boundaries. Love does not tolerate nonsense. Okay? And so that's one of the things you always want to remember. Loving kindness. It takes the thoughts and feelings of its subject, because it's not an object, it's a subject of love. We desire the highest good for all concerned. We do not judge others, but wait for the time to reveal with that which is righteous and true. And then she even gets into the righteous judgment is to judge based on the spiritual understanding rather than prejudice or limited views. So often we just simply don't have enough information to judge. So, and that goes back to what Reverend Jesse was talking about, where we could talk to somebody for 24 hours straight and still only know 10% about them. We don't know, when we judge other people's choices, the problem with that is we don't know what they had to choose from. So a spiritual understanding, if we look at them and see a beloved child of God, that's the spiritual understanding, not our limited perception of them. It's like, look at the truth back up, look at the reality back up, who they are. We do not criticize or condemn even in thought, but seek only to let God's love live in and through us. And that's that reminder that we are divine channels for that love into the material realm. Are we being good channels? We walk humbly with thee, O God, and reverence the Christ self in our fellow people. When we look into each other's eyes, do we see God looking back at us? I talk about the Christ consciousness like software. Now, here's where I remind you, my mother was an electrical engineer. I mean, she still is. She's just retired now. My mother was an electrical engineer. And so I talk like this because I want to remind you, this is hardware. Our consciousness is software, and there are certain things that we come pre-installed with. We come pre-installed with love. We come pre-installed with the Christ consciousness. It's already installed in us. What we have to do is activate it. Well, the good news is, well, Christ came down, Jesus, okay, hang on. Jesus came here and said, hey, you know what? I got this Christ consciousness. He ran that software to the fullest extent that is possible, in his time. And he said, let me teach you how to do this. The password is love. You want to activate the Christ consciousness. The password is love. This is what Vida is telling us. Choose the way of love. And that will reverence the Christ consciousness within us. So if we always choose the way of love, and like I said, love isn't weak. Love has strong boundaries. Love is capable of saying no. Because you think of love as always a yes, and it's not. There is such an idea of a divine no. And so, but the password is always, always, always going to be love. If we choose the way of love, recognize that we are divine channels for love to enter into the material frame, the material world. Well, there we are. All right, Vida. Oneness. Recognizing, being willing to look into each other's eyes and see God looking back at us. And most importantly, I'm going to remind you to look into your own eyes and see God looking back at you. So, two things. One, the mission today, should we choose to accept it, is to choose the way of love in all of that, in the weight of all of that. And the good news is, like I said, that's the password into the Christ consciousness. Choose the way of love. And then the second part of that is the spiritual practice of doing something loving for yourself, doing something kind for yourself, doing something compassionate for yourself. Okay? Well, choosing the way of love is loving, kind, and compassionate. And sometimes you think that when you do loving, kind, and compassionate things for yourself, it's always a yes. Well, no. Sometimes it's a no. Sometimes somebody comes to you and asks you to do something. Well, it's not loving, kind, and compassionate to you to do it. So you say no. And that is also loving, kind, and compassionate to them, because then they can go find somebody that actually can do it, is willing to do it, wants to do it. All right. So remember that love, kindness, and compassion. I remind you, take a deep breath before you speak. That's part of it. I remind you that, taking a walk, taking a nap, drinking a big glass of water, all of that is love, kindness, and compassion. Saying yes to something that you weren't expecting is loving, kind, and compassionate, but also saying no. Now, what you're hearing me tell you is self-care. Love, kindness, and compassion. I'm asking you to practice that on yourself. I'm asking you to practice self-care. And I ask you to do it every day for a couple of reasons. One, you are your own best test subject. If we are going to test out being divine channels of love, we are our own best test subjects. We get immediate feedback. Two, I'm encouraging you to create a habit, a first response. And the difference between a reaction and a response is that moment of consciousness. And that moment of consciousness, the good thing about a moment is it can be as long as you need it to be. That moment of consciousness, which is one of the reasons why I say take a deep breath before you speak. So I'm asking you to create a habit, a first response, so that no matter what happens, you can respond lovingly, kindly, and compassionately to yourself and to others. And third, you deserve your own love. You deserve your own kindness. You deserve your own compassion. That is why I ask you to practice on yourself. It really is a spiritual practice. Okay. I'm also going to remind you that it is about making room for joy. Joy is a quality of God. Happiness is a quality of God. No matter what is going on in the world, you deserve joy. So make room for it. So I say, eat dessert first. And I do literally mean it. Occasionally, eat dessert first. But that's also a metaphor for me to remind you, don't save the good stuff. We may only pass this way once. Don't save the good stuff. Wear the nice clothes, eat the good food, drink the good stuff, plenty of water in there, but make room for joy. Okay? Self-care. All right. It is my soapbox. Absolutely. It's self-care is my soapbox. It might be because I grew up with parents that weren't good at self-care. And therefore, for a while, I wasn't good at self-care. And then I went to ministerial school, and they went, if you are going to live a life of service, you must take care of yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And there I am. All right. So you have your mission today. Choose the way of love. You have your spiritual practice, at least one. Love, kindness, and compassion. And it can be as big as little as you want. And it can be multiple things. Doesn't have to be just one. I only ask for one every day. I'm going to remind you to do something to engage your mind and your body, whatever that looks like. I'm going to remind you to drink plenty of water. Hydration is important. Your brain works better when it is hydrated. I'm going to remind you to get some early in your day bright light. Today, the sun was mostly behind the clouds, so my bright light is artificial. But hey, point is, what I'm talking about, it's science. You can look it up. It's called a circadian rhythm. It is a hormone balance. That early in your day bright light, especially on your face, stimulates a hormone balance, which does help you to have more energy during the day and sleep better at night. So it's a real thing. You can look it up. Just my self-care tips to you. And then I'm going to remind you, as I always do, I know this is we're going to do the year of women, but I'm always going to give you my Ernest Holmes quote. Open the windows of your soul. Allow the breath of heaven to remind you do live in heaven right here, right now. It's all around us all the time. Okay? Because it's all made from God. So what that reminds us is that heaven is a state of mind. It is a state of consciousness. And the cool thing is that once we learn to create it for ourselves, two things happen. One, nobody can take it away from you. Once you learn to create that heavenly state of mind, that heavenly state of consciousness, that is a state of grace. Nobody can take it away from you. Two, heaven ceases to be a place and can become any place. And if we practice, because practice makes permanent, it can become every place. It's a superpower. It is absolutely a superpower. And we come pre-installed with it. It's part of the Christ consciousness package. Password is love. Remember that. Okay. Oh, hello, Foster. And in looking to do this, to open the windows of your soul, one of the best ways you can do it, look for the good and praise it. Emma is right. Emma Curtis Hopkins is right. Look for the good and praise it. I like to look for the little goods because they add up to this avalanche of good. But just look for the good and praise it. It works. Gratitude will get you everywhere. You want to change your mindset? Start a gratitude journal. It will go a long way to really helping to change your mindset. I've seen it work. I have permission to tell you because my husband was really struggling one time. And he was just like, and he just couldn't get out of that negative mindset. And I said, why don't you keep a gratitude journal? Counting his blessings. And at the end of the week, he looked at me and he went, I do feel better. It works. I mean, I watched it work right there. So count your blessings. It's a good way to go to sleep at night, but it'll also be a good way to change your attitude. Okay. Here's where I remind you, social media. We are Creative Life Spiritual Center, Creative Life Spark on the social medias that we are on. I am the Running Rev Ryan on the social medias that I am on. That does include YouTube. I want to remind you because I'm very proud of the YouTube channels, both of them, because they are organized into playlists by month, and on YouTube, on the Creative Life Spiritual Center YouTube by speaker. So it'll be in the month, but it'll also be under the speaker, except for Jesse, because it's all Jesse. So, you know, outside of, like I said, the other, because Reverend Arthur's got a playlist, Danielle's got a playlist, Reverend David's got a playlist, I've got a playlist on there of the Sunday talks that I've given, and preview. We now have a way to get Jesse's older talks and some older talks by like Reverend Marcia. So some of those are going to become available in the ongoing future. So watch for those. Watch for those. If you have liked and subscribed, then it'll notify you when we upload new stuff to the YouTube channel. So be sure to like and subscribe and allow notifications or whatever it is that you need to do. Okay. If you want to know what's going on with the center, email info@creativelife.org. That gets you on the constant contact. If it says click here now, then it will take you right to the information you want or to the person that can help you get it. So avail yourself of all of that information. So I guess I'm at the part where I get to encourage you to have a great day, a wondrous day, a fantastic day, a magical day, an enchanted day, a wonder-filled day, an awesome day, an amazing day. I don't know what the weather's going to be day. Maybe we'll dance in the rain day. A get ready for the soul session tomorrow day. I don't have any idea what kind of day I'm going to have, but I'm going to enjoy it. A choose the way of love day. A look in the eyes of someone and see God looking back at you day. A good day. Maybe a silly day. A good day. And if that is too much pressure, simply have a day, because you are enough just as you are. You are a beloved child of God. You are a divine spark, a brilliant light. You are spirit in motion. You are God in action. You are a godling. Please know the truth of your being. Go back to God's idea of you. Forget what the world has told you. Go back to God's idea of you. All right. Reverend David should be on about, I'm sorry, I just distracted myself completely. I can't blame it on the cat because it was me. Reverend David should be on around 5 p.m. with you. I will be back with you around 9 a.m. tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Know that you are loved. And I will see you next time.